In the small, vibrant village of Umuchukwu, now still deep within the heartland of Igbo land, lived a young woman named Nnenna. She was known for her beauty and grace, with a gentle voice that could calm the fiercest of storms. When she married Obinna, a well-respected young man from a neighboring village, the entire community rejoiced. It was a union blessed by the elders and celebrated by all. Little did Nnenna know that her life would be fraught with trials and tribulations, many of which would stem from her mother-in-law, Mama Obinna. Mama Obinna was a formidable woman. She was a widow, toughened by years of hardship and the responsibilities of raising her son alone. She had high expectations for everything and everyone around her, especially for her son's new wife. From the day Nnenna entered the family compound, Mama Obinna scrutinized her every move, from the way she walked to the way she cooked. Nothing seemed to escape her critical eye. In Umuchukwu, tradition was not just a way of life, it was life itself. The community thrived on customs passed down through generations. For Nnenna, adjusting to her new role as a daughter-in-law meant adhering to these traditions, no matter how stringent they were. One of her primary responsibilities was to ensure the household ran smoothly, a task that came with the expectations of daily chores, including cooking, cleaning, and assisting in the family's farmland. Mama Obinna was not an easy woman to please. Every meal Nnenna prepared seemed to fall short of her expectations. "Is this how your mother taught you to cook?" she would ask, her voice laced with disdain. "In my day, we knew how to make real soup, not this watery mess." No matter how hard Nnenna tried, her efforts were met with criticism. The young woman felt as though she was living under a microscope, her every flaw magnified by her mother-in-law's relentless scrutiny. The village was small and news traveled fast. Nnenna's struggle became a topic of gossip among the women at the market. They whispered about how Mama Obinna would never let go of her son, how she feared Nnenna would take him away from her. They speculated that this was why she made life difficult for her daughter-in-law, to keep her from getting too comfortable in her new home. Despite the challenges, Nnenna found solace in her husband Obinna. He was a kind and understanding man who tried his best to shield her from his mother's harshness. They often spent their evenings together, walking through the village or sitting by the river bank, where Nnenna would share her blessings. Obinna would listen, holding her hand, and promise that things would get better. "Mama will come around," he assured her. "She's just old-fashioned." There were moments when Nnenna believed him. She thought that if she worked hard enough, if she proved herself, Mama Obinna would finally accept her. But those moments were fleeting. Each time she thought she had made progress, something would happen to remind her of the chasm that existed between them. A burnt piece of yam, an improperly swept floor, even a misplaced word would trigger another round of criticism. As the months turned into a year, Nnenna felt herself growing weary. The strain of trying to please her mother-in-law began to take its toll. She lost weight, her once bright eyes dulled by fatigue and stress. She rarely smiled anymore, and the laughter that used to fill the compound was gone. Even her relationship with Obinna suffered as the tension in the household seeped into the marriage. One day, a particularly harsh argument erupted. Mama Obinna accused Nnenna of being lazy and disrespectful, saying that she was unfit to be a wife. Nnenna, worn down and exhausted, finally snapped. "What do you want from me?" she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I have done everything you asked, yet nothing is good enough." The silence that followed was deafening. Mama Obinna looked at her with a cold, unyielding stare. "You would never be good enough," she said, her voice icy. "Not for my son, not for this family." Nnenna felt her heart shatter. It was a moment of realization that no amount of effort could change Mama Obinna's opinion of her. In the days that followed, Nnenna withdrew herself. She stopped trying to appease her mother-in-law, stopped caring about the household chores, and even stopped confiding in Obinna. The spark in her eyes dimmed completely, replaced by a hollow look that spoke of her inner turmoil. She knew she couldn't continue living in a place where she was neither loved nor wanted. Then came the fateful day that changed everything. Nnenna was in the kitchen preparing dinner where she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest. She dropped the knife she was holding and clutched at her heart, struggling to breathe. Panic set in as she realized something was terribly wrong. She stumbled out of the kitchen, calling for Obinna, but he was nowhere to be found. Mama Obinna came rushing in, her face pale. For the first time, Nnenna saw genuine concern in her eyes, but it was too late. Nnenna collapsed to the ground, her vision blurring. The last thing she heard was Mama Obinna's frantic voice calling for help. Nnenna's death shook the entire village. The young woman who had once been full of life was gone, leaving behind a trail of sadness and unanswered questions. The villagers mourned her passing, whispering about the tragic circumstances that led to untimely demise. Some blamed Mama Obinna, saying her relentless criticism and coldness had driven Nnenna to her breaking point. Others pitied Obinna, who had lost the love of his life. Mama Obinna, for her part, was never the same. She rarely left the house, her once strong demeanor crumbling under the weight of her guilt. She had not only lost a daughter-in-law, but also a son, who now looked at her with eyes full of anger and sorrow. Obinna couldn't forgive her for the role she played in Nnenna's suffering, and the relationship became strained, filled with silence and resentment. Years passed, but the memory of Nnenna lingered in the village of Umuchukwu. Her story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked tradition and consequences of a mother-in-law's harshness. The house where she once lived stood empty, a silent testament to the love and pain that had existed within its walls. Mama Obinna lived out the rest of her days in solitude, haunted by the ghost of her past actions. She became a shadow of her former self, consumed by the realization that she had driven away the very person who could have brought joy and love into their family. In her final days, she often sat by the window, staring out into the distance, as if waiting for a forgiveness that would never come. As for Obinna, he eventually left the village, unable to bear the memories that haunted him. He moved to the city where he started a new life, but he never remarried. The pain of losing Nnenna stayed with him, a constant reminder of what could have been. In the end, Nnenna's story was not just about a daughter-in-law and her mother-in-law. It was a story about love and loss, about the struggles of fitting into a world that doesn't accept you, and about the devastating consequences of unkindness. The tale of Nnenna and Mama Obinna became a part of the villagers' lore, a sad chapter in the history of Umuchukwu, a story that will be told and retold, a legacy of pain that will never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. It's Super Kate. Bye.